Well, welcome everybody. My name is Anna Marie Stevens. I'm the Career Readiness and Employment Program Administrator for American Indian College Fund. I want to thank Danielle for being here today and sharing her experience with getting the Student Professional Development Grant. Let me introduce Danielle. So just go over some agenda items. We're going to do some introductions, an overview of her experience, anything she learned, and advice that she has for any scholars and takeaways that she wants to share. We also have in here another slide for a student who's going to be sharing in a different video. So I'm going to skip over her information. Her name is Najodi. And then I'm going to introduce Danielle. And Danielle, you can take it over.
Hi, my name is Danny Kayumjian. I am a member of the Thanawat Nation, and I'm also a White Earth Band of Ojibwe. I'm from Tucson, Arizona. I'm currently a first-year law student and a first-year master's student in the American Indian Studies program at the University of Arizona.
Thank you for sharing that. So my first question to you, Danielle, is what motivated you to apply for this internship or field study?
Well, I was an Earth Grant intern through the Arizona Center for Resilience or Institute for Resilience through the University of Arizona during the fall and spring of 2024, 2025. And I wanted to continue my research and work at Flowers and Bullets, which is an Indigenous-led collective farm. And the SPD grant enabled me to do that. So I was able to write a proposal and continue our work with soil health and connecting urban Indigenous communities to traditional ecological knowledge.
Yes. So Flowers and Bullets is a great organization, and we have a couple of questions that Danielle will share more about their organization. Thank you for sharing that. So the next question is, can you briefly describe the company or your role during your internship at your work?
Sure. So I was a farm assistant and I did everything from caring for our livestock. We have primarily goats, we have chickens, and doing irrigation line repair, soil testing, and then also crop production and uh, maintenance of our fields. This is the first season in a while that we've been able to have corn. And so it was definitely a sharp learning curve after taking a hiatus for a couple of years. But we were able to assess what worked, what didn't work, and celebrate those successes and have a plan going forward to be able to have fresh produce for our community.
Amazing. Can you tell a little bit more about your company?
Yeah, so Flowers and Bullets is a collective effort. People from the Barrio Centro and Julia Keene neighborhoods who got together and purchased a condemned school and turned it into a small scale farm with centering Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous community health. Furthermore, it's a place for families to come together. It's very family centered. That everyone has a space at the table. Sorry about that. There was a car that drove by. Such a
Oh,
nice
that's
day,
good.
so we're sitting outside here. Uh, and I was able to I'd seen like flyers for them like on Instagram and around town, and when I saw that they were involved with the University of Arizona's Earth Grant program, I was really excited to become involved with them.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that they're still in existence. Danielle was a part of a program called A Student's Journey, and they got funding around the same time A Student's Journey did, and they're doing amazing things. I've had an opportunity to actually go visit um, their property, and they had just started. So I could imagine how larger scale that it works. And I remember they were just working on getting goats the last time I was there.
Yeah, the goats are definitely one of my favorite parts of going to work every day.
Yes. Okay, so the next question is, which projects or tasks did you enjoy the most and why?
I really enjoyed having to figure things out because we're a very scrappy, lean operation. So we don't have tons of capital and endless supplies. So there were a lot of times that Martine and I would have to, the other farm attendant would have to figure out a way to create a livestock fence with limited resources. And it's that problem solving element that I really enjoyed, but also like that building connections between the community, but also each other, and having a sense of support, which was really nice. And of course, the goats. Did I mention the goats? I loved grazing them every morning and learning how to trim their hooves. And every single goat has a personality. And I became really close to two goats in particular.
That's it's really interesting when you figure out your animal or animals characteristics and figure out what they like and they don't like. And you know, most people talk about dogs and cats, but like when you're working with larger animals, it's a little bit different. So it's amazing you have that opportunity to engage with them and your passion to still continue to be in the community. One of the things I wanted to ask is the crops that you grew, were there farmers markets that where you guys would host?
So that is something that is in the plan for the future. Presently, we are working on our tiendita, which is going to be a small market with goat's milk products, and then beeswax from the bees that we have. And then we'll hopefully scale up with our crop production, but also fresh eggs from our chickens as well. So that is currently in the works. And eventually there'll be a commissary kitchen where the community could come together and use it, but also we'll have you know, vendors on the weekends, again, centering indigenous foodways and bringing that to the community.
Wonderful. Okay, so the next question is, were there any challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
Sorry about that. Everyone loves to drive by this time of day.
I actually didn't hear that one.
Oh, okay, excellent. So probably my biggest challenge was avoiding burnout this summer. I just completed a 5-year, I was a 5-year senior, as I say. I completed my 2 bachelor's degrees and a minor, and it was a very long haul. And this is the first summer that I was not enrolled in any coursework. And I definitely needed to prioritize self-care and resting this summer. And my internship site was very supportive of that. And they enabled me to actually take time for myself, which is something that's difficult for me to ask for help, to let people know that yes, I'm only human and I do need I do need breaks every now and then. So that was an important skill to cultivate this summer.
Right. I think for anyone, I think one of the challenges for me too is like working from home and trying to make sure that I walk away from working and continuing to like just to be at home instead of working because that's kind of a habit. And that was something I had to learn and challenges. Even just as a student, I think there's so many challenges come with being a student. And trying to find resources that would be beneficial to you. So I'm grateful that you had this opportunity. So the next question is, how has the internship or work influenced your career goals and academic direction?
So one might look at the fact that I was working in agriculture and wonder how that connects to my law school and eventual lawyer career path. Um, and I would say that for me, coming from a tribe that were the masters of desert agriculture, agriculture is intrinsically tied to nation building and nation maintenance. So it behooved me to learn how to be a farmer, how to make those connections between our ancestral knowledge and ancestral ways and how we currently live. And I always joke, well, you know, if the whole lawyer thing doesn't work out, I can always be a farmer because I have kind of a green thumb. All jokes aside, it also showed me the power of community and building those important connections and realizing that knowledge is something that should be shared from the youngest child to the, you know, to elders. that intergenerational exchange is really powerful and important. So there were a lot of good things I learned this summer.
Absolutely. I really resonate with that because during the pandemic, we were so busy prior to the pandemic and being home. There were a lot of things that my daughter's culture teacher had them doing virtually. And so it taught us as a family how to work together and do a lot of traditional farming, also traditional picking and understanding that. Where before oh, excuse me, I had some knowledge, but I would say that it wasn't as intently or in purposeful as when we're in the pandemic because we actually had created a farm and that was part of their project. I wish it was still working, I mean, up to par right now. Like, in fact, I was looking at it just yesterday, like I need to get back out there and start doing this, but it was really helpful for me. And also just talking to the people in the community who share that knowledge or have that knowledge were more than willing to teach me how, about soil, about what grows out here well, when is the best time to do it. So you're absolutely correct. So what advice would you give students preparing for similar internships or field work?
I think it's important that you don't allow self-doubt or imposter syndrome to prevent you from going for things that you want in life. And if that's an internship that's similar to mine or an internship that, you think, well, I want to do this, but can I do this? Like, no, I'm not skilled. No, you are. You just need to believe that you are. And I think that as Indigenous people, we tell ourselves we have to be twice as good, or we can't have any off days, or that we're not qualified. But that's seldom the case. And I would just encourage anyone that wants to pursue an internship through the SPD grant that they go for it, and that they give themselves the necessary time and space to write a compelling plan for what they want to accomplish during their internship.
Yeah, you bring up some really good points. I would definitely say when you are applying for the SPD grant, one of the big things I emphasize is that you find someone who is going to help you if you're doubting your ability to get it done, but find an advisor, find a classmate, somebody who is going to help you just look over what you proposed, put some effort into it, and for sure, imposter syndrome comes into a play when you're self-doubting, but I think taking advantage of being getting the SPD grants and a great opportunity for you to learn skills as scholars, um, even if it's starting with basic, because then you're learning over time and you're gaining skills that you didn't have, and that's something that you could explain on your project is saying, well, I would like to do this, but I don't have these skills, and explain how it will generate those skills for you in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so the next question is, how did you balance internship or fieldwork responsibilities to schools and other commitment?
So for me, it comes back to the planning piece. I used to be very bad about planning. I would just kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and I found something called the passion planner, where I plan out like what time I wake up, what day, and when I'm in school, when I'm going to study for this class, when I'm going to write this paper, looking out like long term, like, okay, I have midterms this week, so this is when I'm going to be working on, you know, outline preps, etc. And then during, I call it the off season, during the summers, I try to have a very similar structure for my life, so I can keep track of things like, oh, I have a Zoom interview during this time, or I have this obligation, because that allows me to carve out time for friends and family, and prioritizing self-care, which, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, it doesn't always come easily to me to uh, make time for that. But I've learned in short order that you need to leave something in the tank for yourself. You can't be effective in helping others if you don't help yourself. So
I agree with that statement for sure. I think one of the biggest things for me when I was in school is family, friends didn't understand my school commitment, and a lot of times they were frustrated that I couldn't be at certain events or family functions, and I would be like, if I make time for it, then yes, I'll be there. And keeping track of what needed to get done was really important to me. And you brought up the passion planner. I love the passion planner. I still use my passion planner to this day. I think it's something that I will probably use for the rest of my life. I tried using other planners and it wasn't something I enjoyed. So I was like, nope, that's not for me. So if you ever get a chance, I highly encourage you, anybody who's listening to this, think about getting a passion planner or some kind of planner, using your Google planner, something, just keeping track of your time, because that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. Like whatever works best for you. If it's not the passion planner, but it's even a Excel file you create, I definitely recommend it. It's life changing.
For sure. One of the great things that I discovered in the passion planner that I didn't have, it was their year at a glance. And they have a whole year at a glance that they didn't have in the older ones. And I was like, I love this. So I created an Excel for my work so then I can see like where I'm going, things I'm going to be doing each month, and then kind of color coding them to like what particular projects I'm working on. I'm like, oh, this is a lifesaver. Yes. So the next question is, what is the biggest takeaway from the internship experience?
I would say the power of community and building those important connections that will sustain you as you go through life, whether it's when you need a brain break, as I call it, and you want to go back to, in my case, the farm and hang out with, your people or the goats or the chickens, or making those important academic and professional connections, because a lot of success comes down to obviously your skill set, but also who you know and how you present yourself and that reputation that you cultivate. And you want to be remembered as somebody who, is punctual and is forthright, and that should carry over, in other environments, I think.
Absolutely. I think what you definitely hit something that's really important when you are gaining these experience of being in an internship field work or just being out somewhere is making those connections, those professionals connections, because those will help you in the future. They will become your biggest resource. Like they will advocate for you. They will be writing those recommendation letters for you. They will find ways to provide opportunities for you to grow and learn. So I think it's really important for you when you are in those internship experience to bring your best self forward. So I want to thank you for being here and thank you everybody for listening to our presentation. I am going to stop, Danielle, if you want to share a couple of your photos and just talk about that, and then we'll end our recording.
Of course, let me pull up my slides.
I do think that it's helpful for students to hear about what other students or did their took their funding and what they focused on. A lot of times students are like, well, I'm not really sure what to write about or what to say, how to put together a budget. Um, just to keep in mind that you can also pay yourself. You don't, if you're putting on an event, you can pay for event supplies. Those are things to consider. But it's really up to you, and just putting that proposal together is probably the biggest thing that happens when we review applicants. And over the year and a half that I've been here, we have increased the number of scholars that have been applying for this SPD grant. Summer was our largest ever. I think we received over 75 applicants. And that doesn't mean we
Wow.
can find everybody, but we do look at, we do scale them, and we have a couple of reviewers that help go through them and look at everybody's. And I want to say the biggest reward from this whole thing is reading the amazing things that scholars are doing and the brilliant minds that our native scholars have and things that they're doing in their communities.
That's incredible. I would also say that for me, like obviously writing a professional and polished application, but let your passion shine through. I mean, I think that what will put you above your, excuse me, your fellow classmates and peers is allowing the why behind your internship site speak for itself. I mean, you obviously want to go there for a reason, and that should shine through.
Correct.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here, and we will look at some slides, and there'll be some cute goats. All right, let me know if you can see my screen.
It's slowly coming up.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, everyone. So here's one of my favorite goats. There's two that I really became close to, and this is one of them. And when I first started working at the farm, she was very skittish. And by the end of it, she would eat out of my hands, and she would come up and solicit pets, and not just with me, but other people too. So, and her name is Strelka. Oh. All right, and then this is actually her brother, and he's also very affectionate and sweet as well. So we're just gonna kind of talk about, my farm internship experience. I won't go into super detail because I've already talked about it a bit, but getting to know our goats, our crops, and some of the skills I picked up during the internship. So this is one of our baby goats, and he has kind of a cool story. He has three other siblings, and his mother actually pushed him and his sister away, and so we had to bottle feed him. And he and his sister were very touch and go. And Martine and I were able to bring him back from like the brink of what could have been a very tragic end. And sometimes, in the wild, that's what happens. But we were able to, intervene, and now he's robust and running around with the other baby goats. So, and we named him Shkuk, and we named his sister Shemoik. So we were able to incorporate some Thanatham language into our farm. And then there's some pictures of our goats, and hey, there's me and two of them. So one of the things too that we care about is that, yes, we do process some of our goats for the community for meat and for bones, but we try to impart upon people that, yes, it is part of the natural life cycle, but we care for our animals, our non-human kin, just as we would any other relative. And we vaccinate our animals. We do routine hoof trimming so that they aren't in pain, but also so that they can have a good quality of life. And that's our matriarch of our goat herd. Her name is Luna. She's getting up there in years. So we have Nubian and Anglo-Nubian crosses, and they actually love being out in the heat. They will sometimes come out from the shade shelter and just to lie in the sun. It's kind of cool. And they're excellent for meat production. They're valuable milking goats, and they have a really high butter fat content, which is going to be great for our tiendita. And this is a former ASJ student, which is the program that I participated in, the bridge program between tribal community colleges and the University of Arizona. And hey, here's some more goats. And fun fact about this very large reddish brown one, he's around 235 pounds of goat. It's a pretty big boy. And he's the sibling to my two favorite goats. And there's the two babies that I mentioned earlier. And they're very smart. People would be surprised that goats are quite intelligent. And then there's some sunflowers that we grow. One of my favorite things, other than the goats, is our ability to transform the soil after, many trial and error processes. And now we have sunflowers, we have different types of beans, We have chiltepines this season, and corn. And it was really exciting to see the fruits of our labor, or the corn of our labor rather. And and it was really fun, you know, like and being on the ground every single day, whether it was fixing irrigation lines or doing weeding by hand because we don't use pesticides, and seeing just, you know, the circle of life, seeing rabbits come through and bite our irrigation lines to get a drink of water, or seeing the birds come through each day and eat the sunflower seeds. It was really powerful.
I want to say that's probably one of the frustrating parts of having a farm or a garden is dealing with the pests and the animals that come and get into it. And like I remember I had some beautiful tomatoes. All of them got gobbled up by the birds. And so I was trying to like trial and error, you're right, like what's gonna work and what's not gonna work. And even with corn, like I had some corn grow, but it wouldn't grow any stalk. And they were tiny. And then so next year we're trying to figure out like, okay, where do we move this? What are we doing wrong? What can we do to improve our soil? So those are things to consider.
Yeah, it's a very delicate balance. I mean, and especially with our growing seasons changing here in Arizona. Sometimes if you plant too soon, uh, they won't propagate correctly. But if you plant too late in the season, it's going to be too hot. So it's striking that balance. But things are so unpredictable right now. But we'll adapt.
Right. I was just thinking about this. I was talking to coworkers about the rain and how we normally get rain like July, August, and we hardly got any rain, and we're like being blasted with rain recently. And we normally don't get a whole lot of rain in September. Like if it is, it's very light.
Yeah, well, it looks like outside right now, it looks pretty overcast. So fingers crossed. I know my plants and crops here at my house will enjoy that. So, and this was a really beautiful moment of everything in my life coming around full circle. In this picture, I am lecturing to some ASJ students that they were able to come to the farm for second Saturdays, which are our work days where we come together and tackle large scale projects with community support. And I gave them a tour and explained everything we do on the farm. And they had a blast from the feedback that I received from that cohort and their directors. They loved it. And I look forward to maintaining uh, that partnership between Flowers and Bullets and the ASJ program. I think it was really powerful for the students, but it was really cool, like being able to talk to students who, you know, it wasn't too long ago that I was in their place, and being able to share my experiences and knowledge. So,
Absolutely. The reciprocity of like giving back. I think that's one of the big things that is important for any community, but also like just seeing that in a student's journey and like how they bring in alumni, or we try to make sure that students are giving these opportunities to share and learn from what they personally experienced a few years ago or a couple of years ago.
yeah. And then the thing that we added on this summer, and actually started like right before I graduated, we partnered with the Haven, which is a Native women in recovery group in Tucson, and they would come out on Thursdays and primarily focused around our agricultural processes, because that was important to them. And it was just really powerful to have a space where healing could take place, but it ties in with another passion project of mine, as it pertains to law, but restorative justice and having people reconnect to culture, especially Indigenous people. That is kind of a missing link uh, to fix what I call the high school to prison pipeline that exists on a lot of reservations. So it was really cool to be able to be part of that, and in some small way uh, help my native sisters there. So,
Thank
and
you
that's
for
it.
sharing. I appreciate you taking the time sharing your story with us. I'm excited for our new website. What we are definitely doing is highlighting a few students in different areas of getting an internship, getting doing some research or doing some field work, or service learning projects. We've had students get certifications. So we want to make sure that we're highlighting a couple of people on our website. But we also this year are including the recordings, and we wanted to make sure. So every year we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We started this last semester, and we have like a rolling deck of who's gotten some funding for the past few years. So I'm excited for where this is going. It also helps us to tell a story of like how we are growing and what we're doing for our scholars. So thank you, Danielle, for taking this time to meet with me and share your story.
Of course. Thank you for having me.